So I'm on Facebook right now, and I joined a group of adult learners who are going back to school or wanting to go back to school. And so I wanted to share with you some things that you will face, the trials, the tribulations, some good things, some bad things, and let's get started. So here's a post that I wanted to share with you. Now, I'm not going to tell you who they are, but I just wanted to share these with you. I've been thinking a lot about going back to school, but if I'm being honest, I'm scared. I'm considering going back to school at 58. Is there anyone else out there in their 50s that are trying to go back to school? Class started today, and I'm really pretty nervous. I'm 51 years old, trying to go back to school. It's been 16 years since I've been out. I don't know what I'm doing. Hi, I'm 61, trying to go back to school. Trying. And the last one, I'm trying to figure out what I want to go back to school for. Isn't that really cool? But listen, let me tell you something. 35 years ago, I was in the same thing. I was doing the same exact thing that these people are doing that's on Facebook. Of course, we didn't have Facebook back then, but I wanted to go back to school. And I was in my 30s. I was 38 when I went back. And there was a lot of things that I had to discover on my own. There was a lot of things that I learned whenever I was there, and I want to share those with you. Hi, I'm Marilyn. I am the owner of Stefani Learning Studio. I have started this studio in order to help adult learners and um, teens that are struggling. Now, mostly it's about adult learners returning, but also the ones that are really struggling with mathematics. So that's where my focus is. But before I even get there, I wanted to go in and I wanted to chat with some of you about those of you who might be considering going back to school and you don't know where you're at. You don't know what you're doing. So 35 years ago, I guess it was about 35 years ago, I was in the same boat. I wanted to go back to school. I had been, I had gotten out of high school, went to school for a little while, was a hairdresser for 15 years. And then when I came back, about 15 years after that, I decided I wanted to go back to school. I always wanted to be a teacher. And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do this. I was lucky in the fact that my husband had been transferred for a new job, and he was basically able to support the family on a one salary, paycheck so that I could go back to school. Now, I'm not saying that we were any means rich or anything like that because boy, we struggled those 4 years or 3 years that I was in school because I had a year whenever I was going back. But it was hard. It was very difficult, but I have some things I want to talk to you about. So, the first thing you want to do when you're trying to decide. Now, like I said, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so I knew I needed to go back to a 4-year school, a 4-year degree. However, I also knew that it had been 15 years since I'd been in the classroom, so I had these big ideas about wanting to be a math teacher. I don't know why, because math, I struggled with math my whole life, until I got to be in 11th grade. And then I had a fantastic teacher who taught trig that absolutely changed my mind. Absolutely changed my mind. And he was wonderful. But before then, I struggled in math all the time. Now, I'm not saying that I got to be this really fantastic math student. I was not. But it kind of gave me this feeling that, hey, maybe I can do this. This is back in the day where slide rules were being used. And I learned how to use a slide rule in that class. It was really cool. It was about this big. That goes to tell you how old I am. But anyway, so we learned how to use our slide rules. I wish I still had it. But I just thought, okay, this is what I want to do. Well, things got in the way. You get out of high school. you have a lot of peer pressure about getting married. Back in the day you did. And so that's what I did. I decided, okay, I went to school for about a year. My dad said I had to get something before I could get married, so I said, okay, well, I'll just go and get um, a cosmetology diploma, and I'll go and do that. Hey, I'm not saying anything about it, because I did very well. I was a very good hairdresser, still am. I cut my husband's hair all the time. But I wanted to do this. I always felt like I had cheated myself by not going back. And I felt like I cheated myself and my mom and my dad, because they wanted me to go to school, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get married and all the things that we do whenever we are, getting out of high school and trying to find our way. So I did that. Again, he told me you have to get something, so I did, and that's what I did. So about when the kids, we have two daughters, when they got into elementary school and they were in dance and they were in all of these little things, and Steve was always having to take them to parades and stuff while I was working. And back in the day you couldn't have off a Saturday or anything like that. Oh, it's so much better now for hairdressers. If you want to be a cosmetologist, you can go back to school to do that, and it's a great career. But back then you couldn't do that, so I had to go in and you know, I was never there when the kids needed me and when Steve needed me, and he was a trooper. He really did what he could and stuff. So when we moved, um, he, like I said, he moved up in his career enough to where I could go back and and try to become the teacher that I wanted to be. So here I go, traipsing into school, traipsing into, LSU. I was going into LSU Shreveport, and I go up there to girls in tug. Here I go, and I am registering in class. Okay, well, back then, no computers. Everything was, paper and pencil. Y'all can remember, if y'all even went back to school back in the day or went to school back in the day, that's what you did. You filled out this paper. You had to go to your counselor to get it approved. By the time you got upstairs to the data people to get enrolled in the class, it was already full. So you had to go back down and get something else and get it approved. It was like it was an all day thing trying to get registered into 4 classes. It was a mess. Um, I didn't know what I was doing. I know that I had some classes that I could transfer, but again, it had been 15 years since I was in school, and I didn't know if they were going to transfer or not. And I had a D, in one of my classes. I don't even remember what class it was. And I was trying to make a decision of whether or not I needed to claim back academic bankruptcy and start all over again. Well, luckily I had a counselor that said, no, you don't want to do that. He said eventually, because I only had like 18 hours or something like that, and then, the cosmetology thing, he said eventually your grades will pull that D up and you will get where you need to be. So I said, okay, all right. So I'm not going to worry about it then, and I'll just start where I am. So we had to take the ACT back then. We didn't have to worry about getting into classes, interim classes. They called them interim classes. They're called developmental classes now. And I didn't have to worry about that, but I did have to take the ACT. So I go in, and here I am taking the ACT with all of these 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and here I am, 38 years old, going in there and taking the ACT. And I got to thinking, I don't remember any of this stuff. You know, the day before I went in there to take the ACT, I found out that I didn't have to have the ACT. Because I was coming in as a transfer student. And back then, whenever you were coming in as a transfer student, you'd have to worry about your ACT. So I said, okay. So I didn't have to worry about it. Well, I went ahead and went and took the test anyway, because I had paid for it. Went in and took it. Well, I did better than I thought. But the reason I did better than I thought is because I didn't have the anxiety on my shoulders, because I didn't have to have it. I didn't have to have the grade. I didn't have to have that test to get in. So that really helped me. I think I made a 21 or a 22, and that, I don't even know if that's good or not. I mean, but I think it is, but I mean, I'm not good, but at least it would have got me in. Um, so here I go into registration, and I registered for a trig class. And I thought, okay, well, I had college algebra back in the day, and I said, next class is trig. So here I go, traipse and get registered and everything, bought my books, went home. The next day I go to class, and trig was first class. I walk in there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and here all these people are. Here all these people are with these calculators, these scientific calculators, just punching on these things. And I was looking at it, and I said, "Oh my God, I am way, way over my head." But I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a math teacher. And so I thought, that's what I need to do. I need to get in this class and I need to do it. So after, I don't even think it was the first, it might have been the second day. I went in the second day and I was sitting there and I had no idea what this teacher was talking about. So I go to his office and I say, you know, I can you help me? What do you suggest? I'm struggling a little bit and it's just the second day of school. And this is what he said. You need to go home and you need to take care of your kids and not worry about coming to school. That's what my math teacher said. I left his office, went straight to the registrar's office, and chased my major to elementary education. Now, let me tell you something. And I wanted to do mathematics. And so I said, okay, well, I can't do this. I'm going to go do elementary ed. Well, and at first I thought it was a really bad, it made me feel really, really bad. And I felt like I was not going to get what I needed to get because it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I thought I messed myself up and I felt really bad. I went home crying, driving home crying and everything. And all I could think about was this. And some of these people on here, and somebody that I even talked to about it, and she said, I want my kids to be proud of me. I never really did anything for my education. I got out of high school, went straight to work, had kids, had a family, and now I want to do this. And I want my kids to be proud of me. And I felt when I read that, I just deja vu. It was like going back 35 years because that's how I felt. I cried all the way home and thinking, I want my kids to be proud of me. And now I can't even do this class. Well, the problem with that is that the teacher was way in the wrong. The next thing is I did not realize that there was a non-trad, they called it non-trad now they call it post-traditional, but back in the day they called non-traditional student. I did not know there was a non-traditional office that you could go into and you could talk to people. I didn't know that. I just thought I'm in this by myself, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that those of you who are trying to go back to school and that want to go back to school, it's never too late. And you know what? There weren't that many people that were older than me. I mean, I was probably one of the oldest, and I was 38. Okay. Well, now I'm reading in all of my in these posts, they're 50 and 60 years old trying to go back to school for the first time. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't do that whenever I was a little bit older. I went, after I got my bachelor's degree. Then I went a couple of years later, I went and got my master's degree. And then a couple of years later, I went in and worked on my doctorate. And I didn't finish my doctorate because I had a bad accident and I had to finish and I just quit. But I was probably 62 or 63 whenever I was working on my doctorate. So, hey, I'm right there with you. I know exactly what you're going through. I know exactly how you feel. I know exactly what you're going to be going through at 3 o'clock in the morning when the kids are asleep and your husband's asleep or your wife's asleep and you're sitting there and you're trying to study and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to keep your eyes open and you're trying to get all of this in your head. All of this is going to be, we're going to talk about all of this. This is just the tiniest little thing. I just wanted to I wanted to just talk to you and tell you my story. And I think I want you to know that you've got somebody in your court. I am here for you. I want you to start putting me some questions down in the chat box. I want to be able to read those and I want to be able to help you. Now, that being said, there's three things I want you to do. First, the first thing you need to do is do your why. Why do you want to go back? Now, many of you probably already know that. You probably already know why you want to go back. You know, it could be that you just want to go because you like lifelong learning, you know, lifelong learning, and you want to just keep learning. You want to keep your brain working. Okay. Now, that could be, it could be maybe you're doing a career change. Maybe you have decided that you want out of the 20 years of whatever you were working on and you want to do something else. You want to do a career change. That's another reason people go back. Another reason people go back is because they have lost their jobs. When you go out there and try to find a job now, it is really, if you don't have the training and you don't have the knowledge of AI and of different things, the math and the science, if you wanted to go into the medical field and you want to do this, or you want to go into the military, maybe you're 22, 25, 30, and you want to go into the military. Well, you got to pass the ASVAB. Well, the ASVAB is not easy. I mean, my grandson-in-law is trying to pass the ASVAB, and he's already taken it twice, and he still can't pass it. I'm finding out why. I gave him a little diagnostic, and I said, "Here, we need to find out what's going on." We found out what's going on, and now I'm working with him, helping him with that. So first of all, find your why. After you've done that, then find your where. Where are you going to go? Is there a college or a university in your hometown? There could be a place that's maybe 45 minutes away. Mine was 45 minutes away. I lived in the country. I had to fly, I had to drive that far every day to go to class. There were some community colleges near me, so I would take I would take some of those smaller classes during the summer at the community college because it was very close, and I didn't have to worry about, the kids and daycare and all that kind of stuff because they were still in elementary school. And so, you need to know what your where is going to be. Okay. You need to know your what. What are you going to study? Do you want to go into the military? Do you want to go into the medical field? Do you want to go into teaching? Do you want to go into accounting? Do you want to go to a 4-year school? Do you want to do a 2-year school? Do you want to do a trade school? What is it that you want? Okay. So I'm going to help you with that. So let me do something real quick. I am going to share with you something, and then I'm going to give it to you, and you can take it with you. I'm going to show you what it is. Okay, so I made this for you. I'm going to put the link below for you. All you got to do is just give me your email address so that I can keep in contact with you. So if you have any questions or whatever, and then you can go from there. But it is a workbook that I put together. I think it's like 10 pages. And it's about career change and back to school readiness workbook. Okay. I'm going to see if I can get this to. Let me pull it down a little bit. Okay, so I have a little welcome for you. You can look at that, and then I introduce myself, and then I give you a roadmap, and giving you some suggestions, some hints. Then there's some questions for you. What made me pick up this workbook? What am I hoping to understand more clearly? Okay, this is to help you make some decisions. Really even to make some decisions, but just to kind of clear your head. Why are you considering your change? Is it because of what we were talking about? Did you have a career change? Or were you laid off? Were you just sick and tired of the job that you have and you want to go somewhere? You feel like it's time. And you know what? Back in the day, we used to say, oh, you stay with the job until you're 30, until you're 35 years are up, and then you retire. Well, that ain't happening. Um, I'm in my 70s and you won't see me retiring anytime soon. I got too much to do and too much to learn. So anyway, I'm here to help you do this. What are you bringing to the table? That's one of the things that I was reading about, and somebody said, I don't have any, I'm not bringing anything to the table. Oh, yeah, you are. If you raised a family, if you were at another job and you did that, honey, you've already brought things to the table just knowing that. Okay, knowing the things that you have to do just to raise your family and to have a house to go. Now, I'm talking, as a female, but there are a lot of men that actually are single dads who are raising their families and things like that. So please believe me, this is not a woman thing. This is not a man thing. This is just for whoever needs to go back to school or wants to go back to school and doesn't know where to start. So I want you to take this and I want you to look at this workbook. I want you to print it. You don't have to, but you can look at it on your computer. You don't have to print it, but I did leave some places, for you to write in. It's kind of like a journal for you. What could be possible? If I could make a change without fear, I might consider. What kind of things would you consider? A career, program, certification, training path, or degree. What are you thinking about? Now, I will tell you this, that I'm not only, just telling you, yeah, you can do this. Okay. I am actually going to facilitate your learning mathematics again. You haven't had math in years. Now, some of you may, but that's my whole thing. I'm introducing you to all of this, but I'll guarantee you that if I could, and I might find the stats and I'll bring the stats to you next time, and I'll give you the stats on how many people will go to school and then when they hit their first math class, kind of like what I did, hit your first math class, and then you say, I can't do this. I'll just go get another job somewhere. But I'll guarantee you, if you do it the right way, the issue with me is I didn't have any guidance. I did not have any guidance. I was like in the minority. But did you know that almost 60% of all students that are in school now are post-traditional students? Now, they could be in their early 20s. They may have just taken a gap year. But if they haven't had a math class in 2 or 3 years, they're in the same boat as somebody that is 60 and 65 who has not had a math class. So that's where we're going with this. That's where I'm going with this. I'm going to help you get through all of the things that you need to do for developmental math, science, ASVAB, medical, medical mathematics for medical, health. Can't even talk. Health careers. That's what hurts. I've taught some. I was teaching in a college here. It was a community college, and all of my students were learning to go into coding, nursing, medical technology, and all of that. And I was teaching the math, and they were struggling so hard. So I know what you're feeling. I've been there. I even have math anxiety, probably the same way that you do. So the one thing I don't want you to do is think that you are not a math person. We don't talk like that. A math person is someone you think, okay, well, I'm not a math person because I don't understand math. The problem is that, and I don't want to say you weren't taught right. No, that's not what the issue is. You weren't ready. You weren't ready. And now that you're ready, we'll get you through this. Moving forward, review what you've read. Choose an area to explore. And then the last thing is to check your readiness. Now, I am going to, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do another video for you. And this time I'm going to explain to you about, sorry about that, my dog's barking. I'm going to explain to you how you can get into a diagnostic to learn how to do this, and it'll all be free. Okay? All right, everybody, I'm going to let you go. Go and do what you do. And it's great talking to you. If you have any questions, please, please, please put it in the chat. Put comments, send them to me, and I'll read them, and then we'll get back with you in the next couple of weeks. Okay? All right. Chat soon. Bye, everybody. Let me see if I can turn this off now.